Welcome back to More Than a Game, a podcast dedicated to the Premier League, the A-League and more. We've got a midweek pod for you all this week, recorded on a Wednesday night in international break, where the Roos went 10 in a row, a dodgy streaming service gets investigated, and we finally get the football pundit reunion we've all been waiting for. Yep, Fozzie and Bozza are back. I'm Colby, and I'm joined today by Tommie, Damo and Shanen. Boys, welcome in. We'll go to you first, Shanen. How are you, mate? How's things since we last had you on the pod?
Yeah, it's been a while. I'm very stoked to be back. Tired from last night's Socceroos game, but aside from that, pretty good.
And Tommie, I see you're on the Wednesday wines in your Lego top. I thought it was a Socceroos top, but we've got a yellow Lego top, mate. How's that going?
Yeah, mate. I think the last time I actually wore this was when Shanen was last on the pod, and we never end up talking about it on the pod. So we can shoehorn it in today at some point, I guess. For those playing along at home, it's the Builders FC Lego kit that Kid and Bone did a couple of years ago, or about 6 months ago. So, yeah.
How many teams were there
in the Builders Lego?
The Builders, stop it.
I think the best part of the kit is that they've taken like the Bundesliga logo and like converted it into like a Lego symbol. It's brilliant.
I mean, of course this exists. Of course it does.
Oh shit.
And Damo, mate, you're also here. How's it going?
I'm good. Also stayed up late last night to watch a game that almost put me to sleep, but I'm sure we'll talk about that later.
That we will. There is plenty coming up on the show today. As I said, we've got the international break around the grounds. We'll round up on some Premier League after 3 match days and give you the highlights of a busy transfer window. Plus, the Roos are top of the group, but maybe we should be a bit worried, which we will get to later. But first up, it's been a big weekend of international football. So I thought we'd do a bit of an international break themed moment of the week and own goal. Tommie, I'll start with you. Give us an own goal for this week.
Oh, mate, you've absolutely thrown me under the bus here because I've got to go out on a limb here and tell you that about 30 seconds ago, I noticed the line in the run sheet saying about moment of the week and own goal. But look, I can give you one. So, what are we going with for first moment of the week or own goal?
Either, mate. Maybe go for moment of the week because I think this is probably your own goal.
Look, I'll give you both rolled into one. So, look, I did happen to be, I had Channel 10 on the TV this evening while I was prepping dinner and happened to catch The Project, that obviously flagship, if you can call it that, Channel 10 program at 7 o'clock, Peter Hellier and co. And Peter Hellier, he gave the Socceroos a bit of a shout out. And I thought, oh, this is pretty cool. Like the Socceroos are getting a mention on The Project. Nah, so Peter Hellier did mention the 10 in a row, which is obviously better than what Celtic could do. But he then went on to pretty much just slam Simon Hill for probably the next sort of 30 seconds about the stats and facts that Simon Hill was rolling out about like the stadium and when the last time the Socceroos had played there in sort of the Vietnam War era. And I was just like, man, this doesn't feel like this has changed. Like I still feel like soccer's still the joke here. And I was like, I went from like, oh, cool, Socceroos on TV to, but we're still just the butt of the joke. So, yeah, mixed feelings. Got moment of the week and own goal rolled into one.
Give it Waleed next time. We'll carry. They'll do us justice. But yeah, Pete's a bit of an AFL guy, so yeah, not surprised with that take from him. Shanen, you're shaking your head, mate. Let's pick the tempo back up again. Give us a moment of the week.
Yeah, every time I hear Pete Hellier's name, I just die a little inside. So I'm hoping we don't have to hear his name again.
Sorry for bringing him up on the pod, listeners.
My own goal, I'm sure you boys seen this because it was going around pretty much every Facebook group. African qualifiers, which they're free on YouTube, by the way.
For a reason.
Bloke decided about 3 minutes into the game to just sit his head in front of the camera. So that was one of the most comical things I've ever seen in football. I don't know how long he lasted there, but it was just a classic image going around.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah,
that was I had that down as one of my moments of the week. I think it was from the Uganda versus Mali game. So
Yep.
huge game. A lot at stake there in the AFCON qualifiers.
A few people just tuning into the game thinking, "Oh, I might have a gander at this." No, you can't gander.
I think my favorite part of the whole saga was they had two fixed cameras set up for the whole game, and obviously the one on the halfway line that old mate stuck his big bald head in front of, they couldn't use. So they had one that was like from one end of the pitch, old FIFA games, you could choose to go like north-south on the pitch and you could never see what was going on. That's it's like you're sitting in the back of the stands in the national stadium in Uganda. So it would have been a great experience.
How long was it? Like, was this for a whole half or something? Did anyone tell him to
30
move?
minutes or something. AFCON is a treat.
Oh, Damo, we'll stick with you. What was your moment of the week, mate?
Well, along with the incident there in Uganda, I had down the Declan Rice celebration against Hungary. So Declan Rice is well known that he doesn't drink beer. He said it a lot, but the Hungary fans were throwing their empty cups or their full cups at the England players when they were celebrating a goal, and Rice thought it'd be a bit fun to pick up a cup and pretend like he was taking a drink of beer just to, I don't know, wind up the Hungarian fans.
Yeah, it was big. It was big. Megan Rapinoe drinking the tea. Or no, was that Alex Morgan? It was one of the American players in the World Cup drinking the tea. That was those kind of areas for me. Poor old Decky Rice, he would have been sloshed after that if he's not a drinker.
Yeah, one little drop on the tongue.
One little stadium
game
beer.
over.
It's like Barney. He's like Barney off the Simpsons. It begins.
My moment of the week this week, boys. It was the APL women's football strategy that dropped. A few really exciting highlights there. The expanded teams that are going to be added. There's going to be an expanded finals series. There's a new CBA, and really interesting, this new club championship trophy that's going to be awarded based on the combined results between the men's and the women's clubs in order to bring the clubs, I guess the men's and the women's sides of the clubs closer together. I just think that's a brilliant idea. Has anyone heard anything more about this and when it might be implemented?
Mate,
well, hopefully it's soon and hopefully it works, because I just think it's a novel. It's one of those novel ideas that just actually sounds decent.
I hadn't heard of it until it was announced. And to be honest, I don't know any more about it, but I like the idea. I like that it brings the men's and the women's game together. It gives them sort of a sense of parity as well, that they're both important and that they're both contributing sort of towards the overall success of a club. So no, I really like that. And I guess it's interesting to see that this week as well, we saw the Central Coast and I think the Phoenix are going to be having W League teams. I can't remember the exact. Yep, and the Woo. So it's all good signs about the W League. After I know plenty of people are probably a little bit concerned about the W League with sort of the player drain of late, and I guess just COVID, sort of the length of the season as well. So it's a good news as far as the women's game in Australia this week.
And my other favorite part about that announcement was they were also talking about the broadcast partnership with Channel 10, and they were sort of saying it means improved broadcast standards, games that are going to be on commercial free to air TV, and then they signed off with and a committed partner. Like, fuck you, Fox. Tommie, let's go back to you. What have you got an own goal, or shall we just?
Mate, I'm already up to my neck here. Like, I'm about to drown if you throw to me first. Probably there we go. My own goal is that I don't have one this week. Probably. Look, it was great that we had the Socceroos back this week, and so look, I'm just going to remain positive for now.
Damo, what about you, mate?
My own goal comes from the same game that my moment of the week came from, and it was a moment of the week purely because how shit the Hungarian fans are, and we see this all the time Every time Hungary play at home, there's racism, there's violence, there's a whole host of things go on inside that stadium, and UEFA never seem to give them any punishment. So in UEFA's eyes, long may it continue. Apparently.
How's the hubris from Boris Johnson though, saying, "Oh yeah, like this is unacceptable." Yet, like him and
it happens
what's her name?
every week in the Premier League too.
Yeah,
so
and Priya Patel was all about like backing people's sort of right to boo the all Black Lives Matter taking a knee kind of thing, and it's like, well, this is what that leads to. So anyway,
Shannon, mate, what stood out to you?
This one actually hasn't gone noticed by the Australian football community, probably because I don't think many people aside from me are in the Asian football groups, which is like Singapore, Vietnam, Malaysia. Ryan Grant has caused almost a repeat of like the Syrian protests to the Socceroos. Some of the posts in that group are bringing back memories of that, long rants, pictures of Ryan Grant. He's become public enemy #1, saying it's a conspiracy of this and that. The amount of photos I've seen of that handball, and they found similar incidents involving Ryan Grant and Australia, and they're like, they have some big conspiracy, and it's been absolutely brilliant to read and watch. So if anyone wants some entertainment, go join like the Vietnamese football fan groups and all that sort of thing. Just grab some popcorn and have a read. It's brilliant.
Sounds like a moment of the week. I think we're going to have to get into this.
yeah.
it's such a fine line, isn't it?
Pull out some copy pasta.
The length of the grass was an issue, I'm certain.
Chef's kiss. Yeah, I didn't know whether this one was going to be my moment of the week or my own goal, but I sort of mentioned at the top it was the Sports Flick. Their founder has it's been announced that he's under investigation for fraud by New South Wales Police, following a complaint by one of their investors. And I mean that's simply it at this stage. There's not too much more details around it, given that the investigation's ongoing. But I mean, I for one am shocked that claims of fraud and embezzlement are coming out of the son of a building company owner who decided to start a streaming service with dubious links to overseas gambling. I mean, that's just shocking.
Colour me surprised.
But the other thing about this is,
I just want to know when they're going to announce like their panel for who's going to be covering the Champions League for them.
Well, that's the thing, Tommie. Like it's going to turn out that one of the main legacies of Sports Flick is that they were the ones who denied Optus from getting the Champions League, which obviously, as we now know, ended up going to Stan Sport, who were the second place bidder, and enter Fozzie and Bozza. So, I mean, you've got Sports Flick to thank for Fozzie and Bozza, really. It's one of those
the boys
soccer
are back.
butterfly effect moments in our history.
Well, I think that could have been an own goal in itself, the fact that Bozza and Fozzie are paired together on TV. That's
There's
just
such a contrast of
pairing.
personalities.
Yeah.
This calm, measured, very thoughtful man, and then Bozza.
the guy who got like hammered how many times for doing cocaine, like as a professional footballer, right? Like, can you imagine Fozzie doing cocaine, or is that why his hair went grey? Because his hair was just like
caked in it.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm just going to be living for the memes. I don't think I'm going to pay $25 for Stan Sport or whatever it is just for the Champions League. But I'm going to have to get someone to hook me up with the memes. All right, let's get on to some Premier League chat, boys. We've had 3 match days so far, and Tottenham are the only team to stay perfect, sitting atop the table with 3 wins. Arsenal, meanwhile, find themselves rock bottom with no wins and no goals. West Ham have put in a decent showing to sit second, followed by Chelsea, Liverpool, Everton, and City. Boys, what have we learned after 3 match days? What's sort of stood out to you? I won't go to you first, Tommie. I'll ease you into this segment.
I've read the rest of the run sheet. Thank you.
I'll go to Damo first. What's stood out to you in 3 match days so far?
Arteta was never the man for the job, despite what Arsenal fans will tell you. It's,
Oof.
I mean, it's pretty clear that he's taken them backwards in the time he's been there, and he's spent a lot of money, and they've put a lot of trust in him, and I don't think it's just Arteta. Obviously, it's been spoken about at length. The whole setup they've got there, from the technical director to the manager, and then the director of football, are all being their first time in their job. I mean, it's just an absolute shambles at Arsenal at the moment. That's what I've learned from this season so far. But I mean, I should have already known that, shouldn't I?
So Arteta's had as much experience managing a Premier League football team as the founders of Sportsflick have had managing a streaming service.
I'd actually go as far as saying Sportsflick have more experience managing a streaming service than Arteta does as a manager of the Premier League.
Here's one that'll really twist your noodle. Who do you think has been more successful though, Sportsflick or Arteta?
Well, they've both spent a lot of money for not a lot of end result.
Well, it just so happens that Sportsflick were just charged with fraud before Arteta has been. So
they both are sniffing around sort of like lower division Eastern European leagues as well. So
I don't know how much more we can stretch this. So let's get off while we're on a high. Go to you, Shannon. What have we learned after 3 match days?
Well, this is going to be very Newcastle centric because I'm a Newcastle fan. First of all, we've learned that movies can come true. I don't know how I forgot to have this as my moment of the week, but Newcastle, I think it happened last week actually. Newcastle United signed a 19-year-old Mexican living in the US named Santiago Munoz, which is pretty much identical to the story of the movie Goal, if no one's somehow seen that movie, which is just brilliant. And another thing I've learned is, as a Newcastle fan, to just shut up whenever they're winning, because I recall smugly sliding into Tommie's DMs, just to brag on the fact that Newcastle were playing pretty well, and I think we were beating West Ham. And of course, I looked like a tit as soon as Tommie seen it and responded, because I think we ended up losing like 4-1 or something. So that's what I've learned. If you're a Newcastle fan, just shut the fuck up.
Is Santiago going to get a game over Gavin Harris though? I've heard he's cutting about the Premier League.
I've heard he's shite.
Niche budget movie reference right there.
One for the true believers in the listeners.
I've got something to add to my lockdown list as lockdown to-do list as well, which is to watch Goal, because I've never seen it.
Oh, you're missing out big time.
I'll report back for the next pod and let everyone know what I think.
Nice. Tommie, what have you learned after 3 match days of the Premier League?
Well, I guess it's been pleasantly surprising to see that West Ham is still good. It wasn't just sort of a one season wonder, and they've returned.
Speaking of an early crow,
yeah, just get that out. Get that out of the way straight up. It's been really good to watch Brighton actually be good and not just be promising but terrible. It's also been really interesting watching Everton actually be pretty good in the face of getting rid of like half of their squad and a lot of really overpaid, underachieving players. And they've been replaced by underpaid, overachieving players, which seems to be sort of the antithesis of Everton for about the last 3 or 4 years. So, that's been very unexpected. What else? No, I guess maybe the disappointing thing has been that, if you look at the table now, there's a lot of teams that already seem to be sort of fitting into where you would probably think that they are going to be sitting come into the season. I mean, you've got the likes of Norwich already in the relegation zone, haven't scored a goal, Burnley sort of thereabouts, Newcastle, sorry, Shannon, also thereabouts as well. And
Brentford in 10th, Damo up and about.
And then, you look at the top 4. You've got Spurs, Man United, Chelsea, and West Ham. So, that's just how things are probably going to end up finishing. So, it's just really disappointing that, already after 3 games, that's looking like how things are just going to end up.
Oh, Tommie, when those European fixtures start to hit.
Just hit different, don't they? Playing Thursday mornings and Monday mornings.
I don't know how Antonius Hammies are going to go on that European grass.
Oh, and the Jamaican grass as well. Oh,
That's right.
no pun intended.
All right, boys. Well, the transfer window also came to a close since we last recorded, and the window's been pretty wild for the Premier League, headlined by the return of Ronaldo to United and the return of Lukaku to Chelsea, all of which people would be pretty familiar with. But I want to know who you liked and who you didn't, and who you think some under the radar transfers are. We've already heard about the Santiago Munoz transfer from Shanen from at Newcastle. But Damo, I might throw to you first. Who's been your favourite?
My favourite to do with transfers has been Fabrizio Romano. I had notifications on his Twitter for a good week, I reckon. So yeah, I was going off non-stop. That man doesn't sleep this time of year. But I think there's a whole bunch of good signings that have come into the league. Ronaldo for me, obviously, has to be the headliner, but I think that there's a few players I can't recall now, but I'm pretty sure was it did Burnley sign a guy from the Championship?
Connor Roberts from Swansea.
Was that who it was? And
yeah.
So go on, Tommie.
Burnley did some pretty tasty business, but it was almost solely limited to fullback position. So you're right, they did sign Connor Roberts from Swansea, and he looks a real prospect. I think he could even slot straight into the team. And they also signed they equaled their record transfer for Maxwell Cornet. However you want to say it, from Lyon for 15 million. Ivorian was a first-team player, a starter at Lyon, and had a really good season last year. So, I mean, he's gone from Lyon playing. I'm pretty sure they were in the Champions League last year, and now he's gone to Burnley. Like, it's just wild. But I think both of them are improvements upon the two players that they had playing fullback last year. So, look. From memory, Burnley had a takeover in in the last 12 months.
New American owners,
yeah, but they did nothing apart from these two fullbacks.
No, Burnley, the new owners heavily invested in the academy. They went from a tier 3 to a tier 1 academy, and they've pumped a whole lot of money into facilities, and they've kind of tried to build the club that way rather than spend a lot of money. I think another player that it's hard to say you're excited to see him back in the league, but a weird fact was Salomon Rondon has joined up with Rafa Benitez for like the 4th different club or something, 4th different time. So it'll be interesting. Rafa obviously has a plan for how to use him, so he will play. And it'll just be interesting to see what kind of role he has at Everton. Because, I mean, it's an absolute behemoth of a man, isn't he?
Good touch for a big man, though.
Great footballer, I think.
And Tommie, what's annoyed you? Any transfer stories in the window now that we've seen the whole thing that's annoyed you, or any transfers for a particular club?
Well, look, one transfer was a little bit annoying. I mean, West Ham have demonstrated their love for a Slavia Prague player in the last 12 months, 18 months. They've signed, obviously, a fullback, a central midfielder, and then he was at Slavia Prague, but Alex Krul, the David Luiz lookalike, he's been signed as well. Ex-Slavia Prague player. I think he'd only been at CSKA Moscow for about 12 months. But there was another Slavia Prague player who's actually moved to the Premier League. That's Abdallah Sima, who he's only, I think, 19, maybe 20, and he's gone to Brighton. So, I mean, it's just another reason not to like Brighton. But he looks a real prospect, and someone that West Ham was sniffing around not that long ago. I guess even more another reason why he's Brighton aren't to be liked, and that's because Brighton have just farmed him straight out to the Championship. He's gone off to Stoke, so we're not even going to see him in the Premier League for another 12 months probably. So, yeah, that annoyed me that someone else signed a Slavia Prague player. Basically, it's just not on.
Pilfer Prague and then just divvy them out to Championship clubs. You love to see it.
And Shanen, we've heard about the transfer that you've enjoyed so far, but what haven't you liked?
I was ready to talk about more stuff I enjoyed. I was ready to be positive, so
Go on.
I'm trying to stop now.
Go on then. Give us some more.
I've really enjoyed. I'll just say Norwich City as a whole. What they've done, they've signed some pretty good players like Sargent and Rashika, but what they've done with the social media and the YouTube, the behind the scenes showing the players get unveiled from pretty much off the flight, all that sort of thing. I found that really interesting to kind of see what goes into a player's first day at the club. And I haven't seen many teams do that. So if anyone is interested, I'd recommend checking out Norwich City on YouTube. Because it shows like some of these players, man, like having to hold up a jersey 50 times in a day and do all this stuff. You would want to quit, you know what I mean? You'd be so pissed off. But it's a very interesting look at what goes on, like on a signing deadline day sort of deal.
The life of a footballer sounds extremely tedious, apart from sort of 90 minutes a week or sometimes twice a week, right? It just sounds like so much naff bullshit, honestly.
Yes, shout out Ben Foster's YouTube channel and podcast. Some of the stories he's got about being a footballer, he makes it out as though it's the most boring job in the world.
There's a reason why they're all gamblers and have horse races and stuff, because nothing else to do. And
We'll just play PlayStation for like
Yeah.
3 hours a day.
Or you go
Twitch
back another era.
streamers,
Or you go back
YouTube
another
channels.
era. You go back another era, and Tony Adams and co. They're all just alcoholics. They just get smashed 6 days a week, and then rock up on a Saturday morning and just absolutely hit it out of the park.
I'm not sure what's a better use of time out of those options.
Definitely.
Well, now they've all just got a handicap below 5 in golf. It's been one thing that wastes a hell of a lot of time.
All right. Well, we'll go past you for what's annoyed you. We'll keep you positive, Shannon. Damo, what's annoyed you?
I mean, the whole saga to do with Ronaldo to City, and then he went to United, and what annoyed me was the Manchester United fans that, you know, one day they were burning Ronaldo tops in the street, and then the next day it was, you know, Jesus has come back to life, and we already crowned the champions after 3 games. You know, that's what annoyed me. I love that Ronaldo's back in the Premier League, and that I'll be watching so many more of his games, because I watch the Premier League more than I would watch Serie A. But yeah, Manchester United fans are insufferable at the best of times, let alone now.
Yeah, I think a lot of people kept the receipts for a lot of the social media posts when Ronaldo seemed like he was on the verge of joining City. And I think it's going to be great to see people wheeling them out through the course of the season.
They were like that Homer Simpson going back into the hedge meme, and then he pops back out.
And then popping back out with their Manchester United shirt that they've just tried to burn or something.
It's all like sticky taped back together.
So
yeah,
someone
that's what annoyed me.
Someone did the Ronaldo jersey burning video and then put it in reverse, so the flame sort of went down the jersey and then it fully appeared like brand new. I thought that was good.
I'll tell you what,
simple but effective.
We were talking about Ronaldo. I tell you what I kind of missed in my moment of the week was Jesse Lingard's celebration when he scored. He did the J Lings and then he did the Soo. It was great to see. He combined his and Ronaldo's celebration in one.
No, I'm off him.
Yeah, enjoy it, Jesse. Enjoy watching Ronaldo from the bench.
Yeah.
And boys, before we move on, does anyone have an under the radar transfer? Anyone do you think we should know about? We've gone through a few already, but any more that have just sort of snuck under the cracks?
I think one that probably didn't get the respect it deserved was Saul going to Chelsea. I mean, he is some player, and he's going into, I wouldn't say a stacked Chelsea midfield, but they don't need him. Already with Kante, Jorginho, who's sort of being lauded as like a potential Ballon d'Or winner.
Why, Jesse?
So you got Kante, Kovacic, and Jorginho, and you're throwing Saul into that mix, and they really just don't need him. Like, that's 4 midfielders that they've got to try and shoehorn into 2 positions. So, I mean, he's only on loan technically for 12 months with an option to make it a permanent deal, but still, strange deal for a fantastic player who I think will do really well in the Premier League as well. Hopefully he gets a decent shot though.
I think one player that there was a bit spoken about him, but his deal went through on the same day as Ronaldo, and it was Emerson that went to Spurs. I think it's a great signing. Right back has been Spurs' real weak point over the last couple of years. They haven't really been able to find someone to really take a hold of that spot. They've had Aurier and then Doherty last year, and neither of them were ever at their best. So if they can get him firing, and he really suits that way that Nuno likes to play with, getting his fullbacks past the wingers. So yeah, I think that could be a really really promising signing. I don't think he'll start in the squad straight away, but he'll really grow into that team, I think.
Wolves with Trincao as well. That's kind of gone under the radar because, we'll sign a Portuguese guy, blah, blah, blah. But geez, he's impressed me a lot so far, and you can tell he's not even anywhere near what he could be potential-wise and fitness-wise. He looks a very promising player, and I think he can link up very well with like Neves and Jimenez. Wolves might be a real smoky for like a European spot.
Well, that's the problem with Wolves though, is that like sort of no one's quite on form yet, and they've had a really slow start to the season though. So, man, I'm on the Trincao sort of bandwagon, but I'm just nervous at how slow they're starting the season. Right, like we saw with Damo's boys last year that a slow start can just get away on you, and before you know it, it's Christmas and you haven't won a game yet. So, you just got to hope that
Day and you haven't won a game yet.
Did they get to Australia Day or February without having won a game? Or when did they win a game?
It was like the 3rd or the 4th of January, thank you.
But
right, the only team to ever go to the new year without a win. So you can pin that on the wall.
Record breakers.
Yeah, exactly.
Congrats. But yeah, I think a lot of people like Wolves, and I hope it wasn't just because of Nuno that people liked Wolves. It's going to be interesting to see, I guess, how public opinion sort of fares as far as Wolves go, especially if they're not winning and they're sort of hovering around the relegation zone, to see if people still stay on the Wolves bandwagon, or if they go, fuck them, they can go piss off back to the Champions League now. Sorry, Championship.
Well, sticking on transfers, boys, it would be remiss of us to have Shanen on the pod and not spend a little bit of time, in an extended transfer chat with a focus on the Indian Super League. Shanen being, I have to say, probably the only Kyrgyzstan-born Australian Indian Super League transfer whisperer. Mate, I know you've been on a couple of, ISL podcasts and things like that, but I mean, yeah, this off season, I mean, you've really seemed to have become the guy, the Fabrizio of the ISL. How did that all come about?
Yeah, I'm not too sure. But like I get at least 50 messages a day, no joke, asking me pretty much the same questions. I think it might have been when I said Maddie Steinman was coming to Brisbane Roar, and then 2 months later it happened. Then all of a sudden I got like 500 new followers. But yeah, they're persistent, I'll tell you that. Like some of my journo mates who have been associated with me have told me that their inboxes are getting flooded with questions about like this and that. And speaking of transfers, I think we're going to segue into it, so I'll just do it. They've linked every single Australian player, everyone who's ever stepped foot in the A-League to the ISL. Like,
anyone who's ever eaten Indian food.
That's not a bad shout though, because there's a lot going that way.
If you've ever thought about Australia, you've probably been linked to the ISL. It's like my favorite one is someone asking me if Craig Noon was coming to the Indian Super League like a day after he signed for Macarthur, because they read on social media that he signed for the Bulls, and the Indian Super League has a side called FC Goa who are known as the Bulls. So there was a big thing where like literal articles in proper like Indian respected publications were saying that Craig Noon was joining FC Goa. So that was certainly something.
That transfer was not a goer.
Here he is.
Shannon, I had I asked the boys a question in a group chat the other day, and they told me to hold it for you. So I'd say, is Brad Inman obviously just signed for Mumbai City, and I said to the boys, is that just a backdoor way to go into Melbourne City in 2022?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
You heard it here first, listeners. Exclusive.
Just on the same contract. He's on the same contract. They just ship him out to Melbourne instead of Mumbai. Maybe send him to New York for 6 months as well. Let's give everyone a turn of Brad Inman.
I also want to give a shout out to Jacob Pepper, who, like, he and I have been chatting. He's been linked to the Indian Super League, and he knows that I like to post about transfers. So I've been trying to like bait him where he's going for his next move because he's been linked everywhere. And he kind of fucked up a little bit because there's one piece of advice I'll give anyone who talks to Indian Super League fans. Don't say anything in direct message because they will screenshot it and we'll get it around. So
no save and chat. Come on.
There's a screenshot going around of someone asking him if he's going to the Indian Super League, Northeast United or someone like that. And he said he was. So I asked him about it and he's like, oh, there's just rumors, mate. There's nothing in it. And I'm like, oh, what about this? And his response was pretty much just like, oh, fuck.
I'd seen a screenshot of a Brisbane Raw fan asking him if he was coming back to Brisbane, and he just responded with the little eye emoji, like, ooh. You know, I feel like he's baiting everyone on in his DMs for a bit of fun because he's a bit bored at the moment.
He's a bit of a shit stirrer, I'll give him that.
He's doing well because a lot of people are talking about him now.
Everyone's favorite condiment-based, seasoning-based player, I would say.
I reckon Jacob Pepper would go down well in the in the Indian Super League, though. I mean, good spicy player and over there. So,
or the MLS with Real.
So he's got far better spices than Pepper.
Do you think he just wouldn't catch the attention then?
It's just
not a colourful enough character. The other thing I want to say about the Indian Super League is, I mean, Northeast United. I mean, what sort of a name is that? You can't just take a compass direction and then put United after it. It's just not cool. Not cool.
That would never happen in the A-League. Shannon, do you have any?
Every time after I say something, you can ring your face.
That we need to be watching. Is there any transfer rumors to or from the ISL that we need to keep our eyes on?
Luke De Vere, probably. He's been linked a lot. And I think there are some bases to it. So there's a lot that goes into a transfer, you know what I mean? But this Luke De Vere thing has been hanging around like a bad smell. And some they have one designated Asian player. Some club directors have told me that they're signing or in talks of signing an Australian player who's played one international. And when Luke De Vere's linked and he's played one international, man, I wouldn't be surprised to see him in there next year. So that's probably my tip of who's the most likely to go from the A-League to the ISL, but watch it not happen as soon as I said that. He's probably already signed for some fucking A-League club now that I've said it.
Okay, just mark that down with some big eyes emoji, and we'll just put a pin in that. But, you know, just before we move on, we've got to know if you've got a catchphrase yet.
No. If anyone can come up with one, it's like Lisa Simpson when everyone has that catchphrase and she just has, if anyone wants me, I'll be in my room. So I guess I'm like the Lisa Simpson of football. I don't have the trademark like Fabrizio Romano and all that sort of thing.
We need to get you a catchphrase though, Shannon. I feel like it's necessary.
Shannon.
Maybe we should put a tweet out to particularly your Indian followers, Shannon, your Indian Super League followers. I think they'd be able to come up with some good material. Maybe, you know, if they put some out there, whoever gets the most likes or retweets, you know, that has to be your phrase for the year. What do you think about that?
Oh God, that's a dangerous game you're playing. Like, that's a dangerous
every podcast
game.
You go on, you have to say the line.
So it's a goer. You don't think that'll catch on?
Never catch on. It'll never catch on, Tommie. Just like
I've
cowbells.
got to hire
This-
you as a ghostwriter, Tommie, because some of your one-liners are just ridiculous.
Well, this is why I'm not big in the Indian Super League, though. You can see it's the reason why I just haven't caught on over there.
Oh, okay, all right. Coming up next, we're going to talk a bit of Roos and their World Cup qualifiers. Boys, Roos and Vietnam, 10 consecutive wins in humid conditions in Hanoi for the Roos. We'll go through some key moments from that game. In the 29th minute, there was a penalty check for Vietnam, handball shout on Grant. Wasn't called in real time and wasn't given by VAR. Damo, should it have been a pen?
I'd have been hugely disappointed if it went the other way. So I think it was a penalty. I think we got away with that one there, and I think a goal for Vietnam there, and we went behind, could have really changed that game. So I think we got lucky.
Any contrary opinions, or do we all think we dodged a bullet there?
I have to say that I agree in part with Damo. I thought the changes to the handball law over the last 2 years, and we've seen really soft penalties given that. My stomach dropped when this happened, and it went to VAR. And as soon as he went over to the screen, I went, "Oh, well, this is going to be a penalty." And I just sort of mentally I accepted that it was going to be, and sort of it was kind of I was pleasantly surprised when it wasn't. I still haven't really made up my mind whether or not I think it was a pen. I was sort of probably leaning towards not being a pen, sort of when I saw this in real time. But really, I think the takeaway for me was that I don't know what handball is anymore. Like I don't know. I feel like I don't know the game anymore, and it's a really weird feeling to like watch as much football as I do and feel like I don't know when I see something like which way are the officials going to go. It's just a strange place to be in right now, I guess, and that would have been a penalty, a stone cold penalty 12 months ago, and even 24 months ago. So it's a strange place in football right now.
So this is sounding a bit like a conspiracy theory to me, Shanen. Why wasn't this handball awarded?
Oh, mate, it goes back years. Like, the Socceroos, Graham Arnold, before the match, he gave the ref, a couple of $1,000. It's a big conspiracy. I'm not allowed to talk about it.
Here we go.
No,
Couple of 100,000 dong.
To be honest, I like Tommie. I thought as soon as he went to the screen, I thought, okay, they're going to give this. It's going to be harsh, but they're going to give it. And I was a bit shocked when they didn't because, I thought that's what the rule was. With being consistent with the other calls I seen, I thought, okay, this is going to be a penalty. So I just don't know. That's like the sad thing. I just don't know. I don't think anyone knows anymore unless someone slaps the ball, out of the air. I don't think anyone knows what's going to be called a handball anymore, to be honest.
So I think maybe the takeaway from this for me was that like there still are 50-50 calls, and like this probably was a 50-50 call, and like on another day another official probably would have given it on another day another official may not have given it, and it might be one of those ones that just literally goes 50-50 50% of the time.
Well, just continuing on then, it was Ryan Grant then that ends up scoring the goal, a header from a late run into the box. It's his first goal for Australia. Boys, should the Vietnam keeper have come out for that, or should the defenders have come back to it? It looked like it was occurring in slow motion to me.
I think personally, the ball by Rustic was just that good that it put the doubt in the Vietnamese keeper's mind. And that's why Rustic is Australia's best player by far at the moment, because he can produce that ball, which makes the defenders hesitate, which makes the keeper not know what to do. It's shades of Bresciano, that ball. And yeah, so I don't blame the keeper at all. I think it was just a tremendous ball by Rustic.
But before Damo jumps in, I just want to say that I wholeheartedly agree that Rustic was fantastic in both matches.
Ooh, both matches. Well, more on that when we get to the China game. But Damo, what did you think of this?
Yeah, that ball that went in. I mean, in the end, it's a great ball. But there's 10 yards of space between the goalkeeper and the defensive line, and the ball nearly bounced twice before it got anyone touched it. So it's kind of it looks really good, but in the grand scheme of things, it's a bit of a nothing ball, because 9 times out of 10, the keeper comes and collects that, and everyone goes, "Oh, what a waste!" Just get your foot on it and keep it. So it looks good, but it was a bit of a nothing ball for me. But hey, we got a goal out of it, so you can't really complain in the end of the day.
Yeah, I sort of think it was both. It was both an excellent ball, and why was there so much space between the keeper and the defenders? Like the defenders either should have got it or the keeper should have come to claim, but it was in that corridor of uncertainty, and we got the goal. So Ryan Grant again, don't know what kind of voodoo magic he worked to get that goal, but he got it. So but just on the performance itself, there's been a lot said about this match already, and we're only less than 24 hours after the game's finished. But the Roos had 6 shots, just 1 on target for 70% possession. Vietnam, on the other hand, created plenty of chances. Shannon, what did you make of the performance?
I'm just going to go straight out and publicly apologize to my girlfriend. I was hyping it up all week. This is the first Socceroos match that she had the chance to watch live. That wasn't at some ridiculous hour. We were both so excited, and it was like, it wasn't pretty to watch. You know
Did
what
she
I
watch
mean?
the whole game?
She tried her hardest, but she fell asleep.
A for effort.
Like, it's just such a shame, because the first ever football match I watched with her as well was a bit of a boring one. It was the K-League. It was the first football match for ages. Simon Hill commentated on it, and it was rubbish. So I showed her her introduction to football. She is a football fan now, but her first 2 introductions to the national team in football have been absolutely shit house. So apologies to her for that.
And Tommie, what did you make of the performance? Was it a bad performance for you?
This is there seems to be a lot of debate on soccer Twitter today about whether or not it's important to just get the 3 points in a match like this, or whether or not the performance matters. And I'll probably fall somewhat into the latter category, that it's really the result that matters first and foremost. And if you play well, fantastic. But ultimately, I don't think we're expecting sort of champagne football from Graham Arnold, especially in a game like this. So it was a rubbish pitch. It was a deep lying opposition, and I think there's still plenty of skeptics about this Australian squad as far as sort of the broader Asian sort of heavy hitters go. So it's fantastic that we've got maximum points so far. And you need to be able to put away teams like Vietnam, who I actually think they were better than China, which I think it surprised me a little bit anyway.
Damo, your view?
Yeah, the way I see it, it's very similar to Tommie, in that at the end of the day, the result is the most important, and especially when you're going away to places like Vietnam, not easy places to play. Conditions, usually the fans make it difficult. They were pumping crowd noise through the stadium PA during the game to try and replicate the fans. So that's something I haven't seen in an empty stadium. But I mean, in how many iterations of Socceroos teams and managers have we seen where we all want and ideally love them to play brilliantly every game, but they just don't. We can't play well every game. We never have. Even under Ange had poor performances at times. But I think the difference between what we have been in the past and what now Graham Arnold has got the team doing is we win games despite playing poorly. And I think winning 10 in a row is testament to Graham Arnold. All he wants to do is win and qualify for the World Cup. He doesn't care how he does it. So that's the way I see it. And I think that's the way he sees it as well. As if you can go away to Vietnam and get 3 points, I don't care how we get it. We get the points. We go home.
And 10 in a row, yeah. Let's just dwell on that for a moment then, boys. 10 in a row, that's pretty impressive. I read the stat today that said, we're the first AFC nation to do it in one campaign, to win 10 in a row, and only the 4th country ever to do it. And we've been one of those other countries, of course, in Oceania as well. So yeah, it's pretty impressive. And I mean, of course, like just on the performance versus results, I think that sometimes people can get a bit simplistic when it comes to saying, well, we either have good performances and lose, or bad performances and win. I think it's a bit more nuanced than that, because of course winning is all that matters at the end of the day. But I think some people worry in games that we should win, like notwithstanding it's Vietnam, notwithstanding it's on the road. People worry about the performances because they think, well, if we're not creating chances against Vietnam, how are we going to go against Japan? How are we going to go against the Saudis and against good teams in the World Cup? And I think that's what people start to get worried about. They aren't necessarily ideologues like you. They don't want Ange ball all day, every day. But they're just worried about what a bad performance or a shaky performance will mean for future games.
Colby, I think the other thing it's important to note is I think that those comments that like, oh, we should be playing better against the likes of sort of Vietnam is a little bit disrespectful to Vietnam as well. I thought they were actually pretty well organised, and they were across the pitch, apart from their goalkeeper.
They're a great team.
They were a short team as well, and we had absolute behemoths like Harry Suter, right? And I think everyone would have thought, oh, we'll just get in a couple of corners, and we'll just knock a few headers in from big Harry Suter, and we'll piss it in like we did against Nepal. But like Vietnam, they're a serious football nation, and they showed that they weren't pushovers. And I actually thought they were really good on the counter. And there was a few times where I was sort of like, the expression, hand in mouth, heart in mouth, where I was sort of thinking, oh, geez, they're going to nick one here. And you thought that it wasn't beyond Vietnam to nick a goal on the break. And so I think it's keeping a clean sheet against a team that does counterattack like that in their backyard has proven to be really challenging for the Socceroos since we've joined Asia. So the fact that we are getting better at, I guess, countering that counterattack, that's a positive. Like, let's take that away from this game instead and say, yeah, cool. Like, we did a great job against a team that actually looked pretty decent on the counter.
Yeah, it was interesting to kind of read on Twitter and on social media the comments leading into the game. People obviously expecting us to get 3 points, and people expecting a big result. And when the pre-game show started on Channel 10 and Luke Wilkshire was an introduction into their team for this game, I thought his analysis of how the game was going to play out ended up being picture perfect in the end. He's obviously an up-and-coming manager. I think he still manages at Wolves, doesn't he, Tommie? He's done good things there. He's done good things with the University of Wollongong team as well, where they went to the World Uni Games and all this stuff. So he's clearly quite intelligent manager. And when he was speaking about how he thought the game would unfold, he picked out 3 Vietnamese players, and he picked out exactly how he thinks Vietnam are going to break Australia down. And within 10 minutes, it had already happened 3 times. Exactly what he said was going to happen. And it continued to happen for the next hour. It was only really the very end of the game where Australia kind of just got the ball and Vietnam didn't want to chase anymore, and the game kind of just fizzled out. But for that first 70 to 80 minutes of the game, I actually felt that Vietnam looked far more like scoring than we did, and we were just hanging on to a lead and just trying to get home and take the 3 points with us. So yeah, I actually thought that was really interesting. Luke Wilkshire predicted exactly how the game would play out, and no one else thought it would play out that way.
And Tommie, you mentioned that we've improved on playing against teams away in not great conditions. The pitch wasn't perfect, and the humidity would have been a factor, as well as the travel and the limited time there on the ground. But one thing that we still are struggling with since Timmy was in the team is that the number 9 position. Our goals of coming from our wingers and our defenders like Ryan Grant and Harry Suter. Are the Roos still struggling to find the right fit for that position?
I think so. I mean, even what was it? We went to the last World Cup with Naboo as our number 9, and he's not even really a number 9, even in the A-League, right? So I feel like we've got a bunch of number 9s that are really good in the A-League, in Taggart and McLaren, but not quite sure that they're sort of international standard, and it could just be where the squad is at right now. Is that like we've got some good players in certain positions, but we're struggling to sort of break through to kind of that next level. I think there's no denying that Taggart and McLaren that they can do a good job. I think for the Socceroos, but are they going to be getting us out of the group at a World Cup? Yeah, not sure.
Ironically, I think that yes, Taggart and McLaren are our best goal scorers, our best pure number nines. but the way Graham Arnold sets the team up to play, Mitch Duke for me has to be the one that starts, because when at the moment we're not relying on our number 9 to score goals to win us games. Our goals are coming from everywhere else around the pitch, because even if we play Taggart or McLaren, they're not scoring anyway. So we're having to rely on those goals elsewhere. And if Miss Duke comes in, he brings everyone else into play, and all he does is he just works and works and works, and he'll give you everything, and he'll bring everyone else into the game and kind of allow the wingers to get further forward. He allows the midfielders to get past him. I actually think he suits our system the best, and I was really surprised he didn't start versus Vietnam.
Shannon, who would you have in the 9?
Yeah, it's difficult because all of the Socceroos striker candidates are very different players. I do agree with Damo, a player that is not so much focused on being like a pure poacher like Jamie McLaren probably would benefit the way Graham Arnold sets up his team. Like Apostolos Giannou, not the best player like by any means, like not a good goal scorer, but he does that hard work. He holds the ball up and he lets the wingers and the number 10 create some chances. But I think Adam Taggart, he's got to get fit. He's got to get regular game time at Osaka, because I think it's a toss-up between him and Jamie McLaren, who's our most talented number 9. But I think Taggart is a bit more versatile and fits into Arnie's system a bit more. So that's who I'd go for.
Just quickly on the China game then, boys. We won't spend too long on this. It was also a tough one for the Roos, despite the 3-0 scoreline. But in the end, again, they got the job done over in Doha and took the 3 points. Just wanted to know from you, though, and let's start with you, Tommie. Was this more a case of the Roos being good, or were China just not up to it?
I think it's a bit of a case of all of the above. I thought we were very good. I thought China weren't very good. I mean, their big name player was Wu Lei, and everyone was talking him up, saying how good he was. But I honestly didn't even know he was on the pitch in the second half until about the 75th minute or something like that. And I thought, this guy plays for a top half team in Spain? Kidding me, right? I thought he was just anonymous. But having said that, though, I did think that Marty Boyle, I thought he was just red hot in this game. And every time he got the ball, or even without the ball, whether it was just off the ball movement or putting pressure on the Chinese players, I thought he was exceptional. And he looks like our best player at the moment for me. The other thing that went in the Socceroos' favour, and we mentioned it as far as the Vietnam game went, was that the conditions were actually far more favourable for us in this one in Qatar, because it was played in one of the air-conditioned stadiums. The pitch actually looked in pretty decent nick, and so everything kind of went in our favour for this game. We've talked before about how we sort of lose that home ground advantage, but also have the disadvantage of still going to other nations. But hey, if we're playing our home games in Qatar and they're going to be played in similar conditions and on a pitch like that, hey, it might actually be okay or the best of a bad bunch as far as circumstances go. So,
Shannon, what stood out to you in this one?
My real question after watching the China game and more so the Vietnam game as well is, who is Australia's best left back? Because we have 3 very good left backs and they all offer different stuff and they all look pretty good. Callum Elder, who looks a lot like Colby, I thought was pretty good on his debut.
I'll take that.
Like, it's a toss-up for me between, like, do you want
the Colby will pick at left back.
do you want the attacking mindset of someone like Smith, who's like a real asset, but he's maybe a bit worse defensively, or do you want like the experience of Beich, who's a bit more well-rounded? So that's the big question that comes for me out of China, which I know is probably making the pod a bit longer. But what do you boys think is, like, who do you boys think is our best left back?
I'll jump in because I thought Brad Smith was no good against Vietnam. I thought he was probably our worst player on the pitch, and we didn't have many good players on the pitch in that, specifically in the first half as well, before he got hooked.
I was confused by Brad Smith because, in my opinion, if I was coaching the team, I would have played McGree on that left side because McGree is going to tend to drift in anyway, and Brad Smith likes to get forward. So, and Mabil, we know, is a winger who likes to stay wide, get wide, and run at people. I couldn't, for the life of me, understand why Mabil and Smith were standing on each other's toes for 60 minutes before Smith got pulled. It benefited neither of them. They both had a poor game because they got in each other's way. So it wasn't a good showing for Brad Smith because I don't think he was allowed to play the game he usually plays. But I would love to see Callum Elder play more because from what I've seen in all reports, he's killing it in England and the Hull fans absolutely love him and they rate him so high.
Yeah, and I think that's right, Damo, and that was one of my comments about the Vietnam game as well. It looks like, it just looks like, he hasn't played too much with Mabil on that side before, and he needs to be playing with someone who's going to tuck in, and they just were in each other's space the whole time. So it wasn't really the best opportunity to have a good showing, but it's a good question from Shannon because it looks like Graham Arnold's still a bit undecided too. And, we've seen all of them get game time and all of them are getting a chance to prove themselves and play for the spot. So, and I don't think it's by any means settled. I mean, if you had to say one, I think Beige would probably edge it just on his experience and how well-rounded he is, as Tommie says. But I think Smith and Elder definitely got a crack at it.
So sometimes I get annoyed with just the dialogue around the Socceroos games. Obviously, and even the way we've been talking about Vietnam, and we should be beating teams like that comfortably, and then we do beat a team like China comfortably, and everyone says, "Oh, but we didn't even play well anyway. China were just horrible." It's like we can never give the team credit for doing what they did well. I thought the team was set up brilliantly against China. I thought the team flowed. I thought Suter and Sainsbury at a partnership together were brilliant. They looked faultless the whole game. And just, I think everything clicked against China, and that's why it looked like China was so bad. They just never had a sniff at the ball. And then it didn't quite click against Vietnam, and we're criticized the other way. So it's you can never really win.
It's a game of such fine margins, isn't it? Like that, even just that combination of Mabil and Smith slash Bayich that can be enough to sort of make a team look really disjointed, because where in that China game there was sort of space and overlapping and movement, it just was a bit clunky on one side, and that's a third of the pitch, right? So it's almost no surprise that against Vietnam, like you say, it didn't look quite as slick.
Welcome to being a Socceroos fan, Damo. Well, the Roos are going to take on Japan and Oman in the October international break, and it's been suggested that the Oman game could be played in Sydney, of all places, at Bank West, in front of crowds of double-vaxxed punters. Boys, would you like to see the Oman game come to Australia and in Sydney?
I mean, if feasible, yes, I would love to. But I mean, at this stage, I don't kind of see how it's going to work. But who knows? I mean, if you're an Australian, you'd love to see Australia play in Australia. So if there's any chance for someone in Sydney to be able to go and watch Australia play, you'd be absolutely cheering. But I just can't see how it's going to work.
Look, I think it's great that the FA are looking into the feasibility of this game being played with fans. So
you had that one stored for days, haven't you?
Mate, I didn't. I thought, I was like, oh, geez, he's totally missed one here. I'm going to scoop that up and just step it over from the 1 yard line. So very good. Thank you for that.
Tap in for Tommie.
Yeah. Like
Shannon, what's your view? Would you like to see the games be played in Australia?
Oh, absolutely.
I
think everyone would love to see games back on Australian soil, but as Damo says, is it feasible? Is it going to happen? Because, man, like over 1,000 cases every day in like the Sydney area, and it's not slowing down. it looks like one of those things where people are saying like, when I win the lottery is like what it's going to be like when COVID stops. So I think it's good that they're implementing the thing with like double vaccinated people, but there's still a risk, and I think it would put the possibility of the Socceroos playing at home further back if an outbreak were to happen due to an event like this.
Lots
Well, I
of
suppose
water
the
to go under
thinking-
the bridge yet.
Yeah, and the thinking, I guess, probably is that it's better to play it in a state that's already like COVID ravaged, right? Because then what's the difference? What's there's less risk of bringing it in, whereas if you're playing it in Queensland or WA, like
Take the game
there's
to Tassie. When's the
less
last time
risk of it
Tassie had a
going in,
Roos
yeah.
game?
Tasmania still
Well,
exists, so they just
imagine if
floated off.
played it in Tassie and then the players brought in COVID or something. Come on.
R.I.P. Tassie.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
After family Christmas, they'd all have it.
And quick predictions from these games. Oman and Japan, big couple of games. Shannon, start with you.
I think Socceroos are going to do well against Japan. We always rise for the occasion against Japan. Doesn't matter what our form is. Doesn't matter what the squad is. And I think we're either going to get a draw or a win. I think Oman's going to be a much more difficult task, in my opinion.
Tommie?
Yeah, I totally agree with what Shannon was saying about Oman. They're real smokies, I think, in this, and I think I didn't watch the game, but I had a bit of a peek through some of the stats, and I think Oman definitely went really close against Saudi Arabia. If anything, I do wonder if Saudi Arabia might have actually got away with one against Oman this week. So, I think Oman they might really push, I guess, those three big established nations in Japan, Saudi Arabia, and Australia for that third spot. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that all pans out. Japan, we know exactly what we're going to get there, but if you ask the average Australian or Socceroos follower what they think about Oman, and you probably get a few blank stares. So, a bit nervous about that one now.
Damo, how do you see it playing out?
I think if we can get 4 points from these two games, we've done well. So, both are going to be incredibly tough games. I think they'll be the two toughest games in the whole group for us. So good to kind of get them out the way in the same window where we can get real focused and get the good squad playing together. So, 4 points from these two games would be a win, in my opinion.
Some week for Japan in that next round of qualifiers. They're going to play us and Saudi Arabia in the space of a week. So Japan's qualifying group could really be in tatters after if they don't get one maybe two positive results in that round of games.
All right, boys. One more quick break, and then we'll be back to look ahead to match day 4 of the Premier League. Boys, very quickly, club football and match day 4 of the Premier League resumes this weekend with plenty of your boys in action. So let's start with you, Damo. Brentford and Brighton. This is going to be the first time they'll have met in the top flight. And Brentford unbeaten so far, 1 win and 2 draws. What are you predicting for this one?
I think it's going to be a draw. It's my boys versus Tommie's boys. He's now a big Brighton fan. So no, I think it'll be a good game. But I also said that about Brentford's last game, and it nearly put me to sleep as well. So, but I'm predicting a draw.
And United will be looking to expand on their dominant record against Newcastle, who have only, I think I read today, they've only defeated United at home once in their last 36 meetings at Old Trafford. Ooh. So, and then you throw this young bloke CR7 into the mix, who I think could be one to watch.
Who?
Shannon, do you give Newcastle any chance?
Yeah, I'm gonna make a tit of myself and say that Newcastle are gonna win. Alan St. Maximin is gonna show Cristiano Ronaldo, how a real player plays. That's probably the silliest prediction I've ever made, but watch it come true.
Here we go. Tommie, will West Ham and Mikel Antonio be able to keep up their blistering form when they travel to St Mary's to face Southampton? I've got a few stats about West Ham. I read that they've won 6 of their last 7 Premier League meetings with Southampton, scoring 15 and conceding just 2. And since David Moyes returned to West Ham in January 2020, West Ham are just one of 4 Premier League clubs to have scored 100 goals in the competition, along with Manchester City, Manchester United, and Liverpool. So, with that in mind, Tommie, give us a prediction for this one.
Well, look, some of those stats you rattled off. To be honest, I'm not that surprised about. But no, I think it was 2 weeks ago on the pod that I said when Manchester United played Southampton that they would be looking at racking up a cricket score, and that ended up 1-1. So look, no one's rating Southampton this season. I know we all slammed them on our preview pod, and everyone's saying West Ham are good. Almost everyone, I guess, but West Ham are in decent form. I guess the eternal worry is that about Antonio's hamstrings. He played for Jamaica this week. He made his debut for them against Panama, and they play again tomorrow as well. So still plenty of travel for him. And really, he's the key, right? Like he's been in fantastic form so far this season. So if he can shake off any fatigue from an international window, then I think West Ham are in with a decent shout of getting the win. I think West Ham will get up though. So,
and Colby, what about your boys Liverpool away to Leeds on Monday morning our time? Ellen Road's not an easy place to go. How do you see that shaken down?
I don't think there's going to be a lot of defending happening in this game. I think it's going to be defending optional. I think it will be high scoring win to Liverpool. I'm going to say a 3-2.
Oof.
Hopefully. Of course, we'll be covering those on the pod this weekend and much more. But that's going to do it for us today. Thank you all for listening once again. And if you've enjoyed the show today, you can support us by gassing us up to your mates on social media or letting us know what you thought about the pod. You can also follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for the video version of this pod, which comes out a couple of days before the pod drops normally. And we'll link to all of those in the notes to this podcast. Next week, match day 4 of the Premier League. Until then, enjoy the football.
Ooh.